We're back. Now, this is going to be emotional, but this is a teacher who was wounded in the shooting. Yes, and then we'll watch Matthew McConaughey get emotional talking about gun control at the White House as well. But before we do that, we are going to talk about the Uvalde, the teacher that came out and talked about the Uvalde shooting and his personal experiences. Yes, trigger warning for, mentions of gun violence or whatever. Every part of this broadcast is a trigger warning, dog. I'm a political commentator. I just started talking about transphobia and even talked about like in between. And now we're talking about, and now we're going to talk about another, fundamental American truth, which is that mass shootings are impossible to avoid.
A school teacher who was inside Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, is telling his story for the first time about the day that 19 children and 2 teachers lost their lives.
He spoke to Amy about what happened when the gunman entered his classroom. And now as law enforcement's response faces scrutiny, he's demanding answers and action. Good morning, Amy.
Michael, good morning to you. Arnulfo Reyes says he and his 4th grade class were enjoying end of school year celebrations when the unthinkable happened. That gunman entered his classroom, and we want to warn everyone watching that what Mr. Reyes says, describing what those children went through as they called for help, is extremely difficult to hear.
I said, if I die, don't let it be in vain.
This morning, Arnulfo Reyes, the 4th grade teacher in room 111 at Robb Elementary School, telling his story for the first time as he recovers in the hospital from 2 gunshot wounds hit during the horrific massacre that took 19 students and 2 teachers' lives.
It was our typical morning, and, we ate breakfast together. It was going to be a good day because it was going to be our day of awards. And some kids in my class that hadn't gotten an award all year, we're going to get an award that day.
Reyes says the children were enjoying the end of the year celebration. And while some students went home after the ceremony, 11 from his class stayed behind. They were watching a movie when all of a sudden gunfire rang out.
The kids started asking out loud, Mr. Reyes, what is going on? And I said, I don't know what's going on, but let's go ahead and get under the table and act like you're asleep. As they were doing that, and I was gathering them under the table and told them to act like they were going to sleep, is about the time when I turned around and saw him standing there.
The gunman entering classroom 112 at 11:33 a.m., then making his way into 111 through a connecting door, opening fire. Reyes shot twice, a bullet hitting him in the arm and lung, and a separate one striking his back. The 17-year teaching veteran hitting the ground.
I told my kids to act like they're asleep, so I'm going to act like I'm asleep also. And I prayed and prayed that I would not hear none of my students talk.
Did you thought you were going to die?
Yes, ma'am.
Then, while the gunman was still in the classroom, Reyes hearing police nearby. According to law enforcement, 7 officers were in the building by 11:35 a.m. They took gunfire and retreated. Reyes says a child in the connecting classroom, 112, called out for help.
One of the students from the next door classroom.
This is good imagery to show, by the way. I want you to, once again, fully comprehend that we have our police force is like dressed to the nines, okay? Just tacticaled out, straight the up. They got their guns, they got their magazines, they got their Kevlar level 4 plates on, and yet they got their helmets on, and yet they still can't do, okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like they're supposed to, okay? But you can't have it both ways. You can't simultaneously claim that you're jumping in front of bullets and you need all this, okay? And you can't even breach and you can't even stop a shooter. Like, you can't do both of those things at the same time. You can't LARP as like a hero every day and act like you're constantly under attack because I don't know, your frappuccino at Starbucks was your order was over, and you think that was because like some working class dude hates the police for no reason, right? And then not do the one time where you're supposed to be a hero. But I also recognize that they're not supposed to do this. They're human beings. No one is capable of being John Rambo, okay? No one is capable of being John Rambo. A fundamental fact I stress all the time. Are there instances where someone is a hero? Absolutely. But you're not going to be able to perform at that level every single time across the board in every city where a mass shooting might happen. So what can we do? Well, if you recognize that, you know, cops aren't the heroes that they claim to be, and that the media presents them as, okay? And you also recognize that, like, no human being is like that, okay? And that there's going to be a lot of luck, or there's going to be a lot of, like, right place, right time circumstances that fit in instances where, like, they can successfully thwart a mass shooter, then there needs to be another systemic solution. That comes from regulating the flow of weapons in this country. That's why I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for disarming and demilitarizing the police, and I'm an advocate for demilitarizing the American population. Okay? If you want to have a gun, and I, as someone who shoots guns, understand that it's fun to shoot guns, okay? You're going to have to go through some background checks. You're going to have to go through rigorous training. You're going to have to demonstrate that you are capable of using this weapon. Okay? That's it. That is an inconvenience. I admit that that's an inconvenience, but I think that that is an inconvenience that is worthwhile. Okay? But unfortunately, because Americans are Ameri-brained, Ameri-fat-brained, and incredibly hyper-individualistic and incredibly selfish, they don't want to even be inconvenienced. They don't want that inconveniencing. They don't want any kind of ban on, like, they don't want any kind of, like, extensive background check. Like, if you're going to go on a hunting trip, for example, right? You want to be able to give your weapon to your friend. That loophole is utilized in urban scenarios as well. Just like, for example, Kyle Rittenhouse got off on a technicality, even though he had a long barrel rifle in a state where he was not supposed to, but they used a hunting technicality to say, no, he can actually open carry. Remember that. That's a, you know, American principle. Even if you're going out hunting and you want to give your friend your weapon, you shouldn't be able to do that. You should go to a third party, get a background check ahead of your hunting trip, and only then are you allowed to give your friend your weapon. I think that's a major inconvenience, certainly, but it's one that is worthwhile because it eliminates a loophole that allows people to be able to give weapons to other people who are going to use it, because all guns that are in circulation are legal at some point, okay? All guns that people use, even if they're using it in the instance of a crime, even if they're using it as you know, even if they stole it from someone, were originally legal guns in circulation. That's it. No, I'm good with background checks, but not before going hunting every time. Hey, dumbass, if you're going hunting, you probably have a hunting license, don't you? There's a load of rules and regulations that revolve around what you can hunt, where you can hunt, how you can hunt, that you abide by and you don't even consider. I didn't say you have to do a background check every time you go hunting. I said, if you have a friend who doesn't have a gun license, okay, and he wants to come with you, if you're setting up a hunting trip, get him to get a gun license ahead of time. And then you can use it permanently. Holy You don't need guns to mass murder. A car would do the job. I understand that. But there is also a level of incredible safety that you need to demonstrate while driving a car, which has significant more utility for commerce, for everyday existence than a gun does. So shut the up. Do you understand? Like, so what's up? You're trying to stop reasonable gun safety and regulation from happening while pointing at something that is, one, profoundly more impactful on the economy and your everyday existence, a vehicle, okay, especially in the absence of public transit, unfortunately, right? And you're pointing to that industry, to that example that already is heavily regulated. Yeah, I want that level of regulation for guns. If you find that like a car can kill someone, then you should recognize that, yeah, we should have a national gun registry and VIN numbers for all guns and basically a DMV for guns. Because I agree, cars are incredibly dangerous in the hands of people who are unlicensed, who should not be driving that vehicle. Okay? So I agree. I agree with you. There you go.
Was saying, officer, we're in here. And then, but they had already left. And then he got up from behind my desk and he walked over there and he shot over there again.
The gunman going back into room 112 and firing more shots. At 11:58 a.m., children from other classrooms seen evacuating the school. At 12:03 p.m., a child from room 112 calling 911, telling dispatch where she was. By this point, 19 officers were inside the building, but no one went in. At 12:10, 12:13, and 12:16, more 911 calls.
Is there anybody inside of the building? Child is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
Parents outside begging for police to save the children.
You know that they're kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
You said you were praying. Do you remember what you were praying for? What you were saying in your prayers?
I prayed the Lord's Prayer. I prayed my Hail Mary.
Reyes says eventually he heard officers come back, telling the gunman through the door they want him to come out to talk, that they don't want to hurt.
Why do you think people think they have such a knee-jerk reaction to background checks? Because Americans are fat, lazy, pathetic slobs who don't even want to be inconvenienced and will unironically turn that into a much larger, like, convoluted argument about their rights or whatever. Okay, they're inalienable, constitutionally protected, God-given rights to have a weapon of murder. That's it. That's literally it. They're unironically, if you've ever had a gun nut argument with someone, they will turn around and say, well, the cars are not constitutionally protected. It's like, dude, what the are you saying right now? Okay, who gives a I wipe my with the Constitution, okay? Yourself. It's just, we are pieces of shit. That's why First Amendment rights are not about like Julian Assange. First Amendment rights are not about Chelsea Manning. First Amendment rights are not about Edward Snowden. First Amendment rights are about you being able to say the N-word in public and not get your beat, okay? That's the way they operate. These dudes don't care about the government clamping down on free speech or anything like that. They only care about being able to harass like a trans person without any repercussions. That's what they think First Amendment is. And the same thing goes for the Second Amendment. It's not about a well-regulated militia or the modern interpretation of the well-regulated militia that like happens to work along the NRA and the gun manufacturers bottom line and their interests, okay, because they want to keep selling you all this dumb shit. It's actually about it's actually basically about not being inconvenienced to like have to get a background check, but when you buy a gun, that's it.
Hurt anybody, but then silence again. More 911 calls, including from Reyes's classroom, but it isn't until 12:50 p.m., 1 hour and 17 minutes after the gunman entered the classrooms, that Border Patrol busts in, killing the shooter.
After that, it was just bullets everywhere, and then I just remember Border Patrol saying, get up, and I couldn't get up.
Did you feel abandoned in that moment?
How do you feel about laws that hold gun vendors responsible in the same way that we hold bars for responsible for drunk drivers? Yeah, I am so on board with that. The gun vendors, dude. Straight up. Gun vendors can suck me, okay? I don't give a yeah, absolutely. They should also hold gun manufacturers legally liable for their weapons of murder and the way that they market such weapons. They should hold the NRA responsible for doing a banned gun giveaway, basically offering a starter kit, like a DLC for mass shooting. Hey, do you have an antisocial personality disorder riddled, a teenager in your home? Here you go. Use Daniel's defense, exact same rifle used by Ramos in the Uvalde shooting. That's crazy. You do that, you go to jail, dude. Fuck you, okay? You get sued so hard. They should literally sue the NRA for every dime that they have for holding a banned guns giveaway, okay, in the immediate aftermath of the Uvalde shooting, and then take all those funds and distribute it evenly amongst the victims, okay? And also, you should just go to jail by default. I do think that you should go to jail in general.
By police, by the people who are supposed to protect you?
Absolutely. After everything, I get more angry.
Yeah, well, people in Poland, you need to have a license to have a gun, are agitating for liberating gun laws using that exact argument. You can kill someone with cars, so we should ban cars. Yeah, except, like, you can't ride your AR-15 to work, so that's one. And they don't have additional safety measures for guns in general. And lastly, when people say, like, knife crime, they always talk about, like, why don't we ban knives? Why don't we ban knives? Knives are killing people. Okay, dude, if knives are so deadly and dangerous as it is like a semi-automatic weapon, why isn't the American military using knives in Iraq? Why are they using guns instead? Do you think you can kill multiple people with a knife, like, easily, with ease, dude? Do you think it's easier to apprehend someone with a knife than it is to apprehend someone with an AR-15? Why isn't it? Why isn't it that, like, every military, if the knives are just as deadly as, like, these weapons, why isn't every military using knives? Did they just not know that? I know the chatter is agreeing with me. I'm saying, like, this is what you can use as a counter whenever any dumbass brings up that point. Okay? No one is saying this will eliminate crime in its entirety. No one is saying that this will eliminate violent crime in its entirety. People are just simply trying to make it as hard as possible to do these random acts of horrific violence, okay? Just like whenever people say, oh, well, AR-15s are not responsible for that many gun murders. Okay, dude, I get that. I understand that handguns are significantly more damaging than AR-15s are. But I want to legislate that too. I want to make sure that if you have a handgun, you should be able to, show that you have, you can undergo a psych evaluation, okay, to show that you're not going to kill yourself with that gun or others with that gun, then that you have proper safety measures in place in your house and in general, all right? You can't use the existence of one other problem when talking about a different problem. You can't just say, like, well, I don't know, we shouldn't actually stop this house from burning down because, technically the piping is actually really corroded in the house. There's lead poisoning in the pipes. There's lead in the pipes, so we should just let this house burn down. Like, okay, well, stop the house from burning down, idiot. That's not a thing. You can't make that argument in any other situation. False equivalency. Yes, 3 character references from your community as well.
Because you have a bulletproof vest. I had nothing. You're supposed to protect and serve. There is no excuse for their actions. And I will never forgive them. I will never forgive them.
How many students were in your classroom when the shooter came in?
11 students.
So the shooter killed every single student in your classroom.
Yes, ma'am. That's when I got to thinking, This family lost one. This family lost one. I lost 11 that day. And I just went to my parents and said, I'm sorry. I tried my best with what I was told to do. Please don't be angry.
Maybe Cos will give him a visit too for speaking out against them and openly showcasing disdain for the police and the inaction that they demonstrated in a moment where they were needed the most, in a moment that they claim that they're in regularly, where they do the right thing regularly, which of course is not the case.
Angry with.
For those of you who don't know, by the way, that's literally what they did to one of the parents that actually ran in. One of the parents that was apprehended originally was able to run in and rescue a bunch of children from one of the classrooms. And the cops actually threatened her with a prior unrelated conviction that she had for speaking out to the media and saying that they suck. Because they are brutal thugs, okay? They are jackbooted thugs. They are violent in all of the inappropriate places and not violent when that violent is a necessity, okay?
Reyes says no training could have prepared them for this. Even though the school had extensive protocols, he says laws have to change.
It all happened too fast. Training, no training, all kinds of training. Nothing gets you ready for this. We trained our kids to sit under the table. And that's what I thought of, at the time. But we set them up to be like ducks. You can give us all the training you want, but it's gun laws have to change. It won't never change unless they change the laws.
Reyes says he doesn't think he can ever return to a classroom, but he's making it his mission to honor the lives of his students and 2 of his fellow teachers.
The only thing that I know that I will not let these children and my coworkers die in vain. Absolutely, I will not. I will go anywhere to the end of the world to not let my students die in vain. They didn't deserve this. Nobody in this world deserves this kind of pain. No mother, nobody deserves this. I will go to the end of the world to make sure things get changed.
And it was also really important for Mr. Reyes for all of you to know that those 2 teachers who lost their lives, his friends, his co-workers, Eva Morales and Irma Garcia, he says they were awesome, amazing educators, and he wants the parents of their students to know that they, too, tried to do everything they could to protect them. So
This is why I said what I said about, like, the prevalence of mass shooting. The prevalence of mass shootings is going to create, like, ultimately a unironic base of support, because everyone is touched by mass shootings in America at a certain point. Like, it's gonna get to a point where, like, basically every single person is going to have one level of connection with a mass shooting if we keep this up. You know what I mean? More guns than people, super easy to get guns. Ultimately, is this what it takes? You have to be victim. You have to be a victim in a mass shooting for you to, like, actually for you to become a voting bloc, like a legitimate voting bloc.
he says, yes, you heard that it's his mission. He wants to see change. He really wants to see the legal age to buy a gun raised. He thinks that will go a long way. And also, I just want to send out my love and thoughts and prayers to him, because he's going back into surgery today. He's already had multiple surgeries. He has a very long road to physical recovery. Mentally, I don't know that he'll ever get there.
Why he kept saying over and over again, please let the parents know I did everything that I could. He did not have a bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
The others did. And there's so much more to the interview that we could not share because it was so...
There was not a dry eye in the room where we were shooting that, because there's no way you can't hear what Mr. Reyes has to say, what he lived through, and not feel and hopefully want to take some sort of action. I mean, we've if not now, when? You know, we've said that so many times.
It's just heartbreaking.
If you can't hear that and want to make a...
Yeah, I don't really care about what they have to say. Oh, here is someone has made an argument about the car thing, I guess.
How's it going? Hey, just turned 16, looking to get my license. Perfect, absolutely. Take a 6-week program, driver's ed. If you miss a class, that's fine. Just have a teacher or parent sign off on your absence. Pass the written and physical test, flying colors. Make sure you study up on traffic laws and street signs to be well prepared for being on the road. Oh, do you have your permit already? Yes, but I've only had it for 4 months. Gotcha. So once you have your permit for 6 months, then you can get your license. After all this, then you can get your driver's license. Oh, one last thing. After you get your license, you can only drive your siblings and immediate family for the first 6 months. That way you're not driving friends around and being reckless.
They literally don't want this. They don't want this to be about guns. Like, this is what I'm simply stating. If you want to be able to carry a gun, if you want to be able to have a nice little murder dildo, you need to do all this shit.
Come in. Hey, just turned 18, looking to get an assault rifle. Do I need to sign? No. Do I have to, like, take a class? No. It's optional. Can I buy a handgun? 3 more years. We can't be... Ah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this a million times over. This is the level of protection that you need to get. I mean, this is the level of regulation you have for cars, and yet for some reason we can't have that for guns, when cars actually have a utility far beyond being a murder machine, whereas guns don't have any utility beyond being a murder machine. All right, here's Matthew McConaughey. All right, talking about guns and gun control.
Secure and safe schools, and we want gun laws that won't make it so easy for the bad guys to get these damn guns. So, we know it's on the table. We need to invest in mental health care. We need safer schools. We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage. We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values. And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them. These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations to our nation, states, communities, schools, and homes. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment. Look, is this cure-all? Hell no. But people are hurting. Families are, parents are. And look, as divided as our country is, this gun responsibility issue is one that we agree on more than we don't. It really is. Look, this should be a nonpartisan issue. This should not be a partisan issue. There is not a Democratic or Republican value in one single act of these shooters. It's not. But people in power have failed to act. So we're asking you. And I'm asking you, will you please ask yourselves, can both sides rise above? Can both sides...
Right. I'm sorry, bro. I know that, like, this is probably seen as, like, you know, profound or whatever, but I just can't take Matthew McConaughey seriously. Oh, God. I wonder if he has a stand-em like Johnny Depp now, and then they're going to rip my asshole into shreds, too. At this point, it's like, it's not even about the arguments. It's like who's making it and how much their stands love them.
I'd see beyond the political problem at hand and admit that we have a life preservation problem on our hands. Because we got a chance right now to reach for and to grasp a higher ground above our political affiliations. A chance to make a choice that does more than protect your party. A chance to make a choice that protects our country now and for the next generation. we got to take a sober, humble, and honest look in the mirror and rebrand ourselves based on what we truly value. What we truly value. We got to get some real courage and honor our immortal obligations instead of our party affiliations. Enough with the counterpunching. Enough of the invalidation of the other side. Let's come to the common table that represents the American people. Find a middle ground, the place where most of us Americans live anyway, especially on this issue. Because I promise you, America, you and me, we are not as divided as we are being told we are. No. How about we get inspired? Give ourselves just cause to revere our future again. Maybe set an example for our children. Give us reason to tell them, hey, listen and watch these men and women. These are great American leaders right here. Hope you grow up to be like them. And let's admit it. We can't truly be leaders if we're only living for re-election. Let's be knowledgeable and wise and act on what we truly believe. Again, we got to look in the mirror, lead with humility, and acknowledge the values that are inherent to, but also above politics. We got to make choices, make stands, embrace new ideas, and preserve the traditions that can create true progress for the next generation.
React harder. What do you want me to do? I just like, he's right. But also, what do you mean like centrism is the way forward? Like, just like reinforcing the same weird attitudes that are not really in, they're just not real. It's not something in the wild. There is no centrism. We do agree on more than we think we do, but people also literally are just so easily propagandized. Okay? Bridge building doesn't mean anything in this situation when the other side won't even recognize the necessity for a bridge, let alone that there's a river there. Okay? What do you mean? Like, oh, we got to build a bridge, brother. Like, there's no Republican senator who's going to listen to this guy and be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Oh. It's not even bridge building, boys. It's literally no bridge, no need for a bridge, and no river even. Yeah, I'm actually gonna run directly into the water. There's no water there. I will do it. Matthew McConaughey staying here just thinks a bit up. You go out of your way to hate on him. Yeah, well, sorry, Matthew McConaughey stands. You know.
With real leadership, let's start giving us, all of us, with real leadership, let's start giving all of us good reason to believe that the American dream is not an illusion. So where do we start? We start by making the right choices on the issue that is in front of us today. We start by making laws that save innocent lives and don't infringe on our Second Amendment rights. We start right now by voting to pass policies that can keep us from having as many Columbine, Sandy Hooks, Parklands, Las Vegas, Buffaloes, and Uvaldes from here on.
Yeah, wait, where's the good part of it? Chatter linked me like a better part. I don't think this was as emotional as the way that people were presenting it. As it is, there might be a Republican voter that listens more when it's a celebrity doing some Hollywood-esque speech. No, we are. We are a nation of idiotic hog pieces of shit on the liberal side, on the Democrat side, obviously, and also on the Republican side. So we're all the same person. We are all gigantic, mouth-breathing, neck-bearded hog pieces of shit, ultimately. So yes, this kind of speech could potentially move the needle. Okay? It could. In the minds of some of these idiotic baboons. However, you also have to remember that, like, it's not, they're going to forget about it the moment that, like, a new thing happens. The moment that, like, the NRA tells you that, like, you know, Brandon is coming to take your guns and, like, kill your children with a trans death squad at your doorstep. And then they're going to be like, oh, my God, you can't take my guns away. They're going to forget all about Matthew McConaughey and his beautiful speech, you know? Just like you forget about the top of the hour ad break. That comes at the top of every hour, and I tell you it's coming at the top of every hour, and then you forget about it. And then I have to tell you once again, like, if you want to avoid those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do that for $5. You can do that for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get one free Prime subscription a month. Okay? You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky, but not everyone is as lucky. You know, you make your own luck. This is actually Gavin Newsom. He does look like Gavin Newsom a little bit. It's just funny because, like, when Matthew McConaughey says the same that, like, Gavin Newsom would say while looking exactly like Gavin Newsom, people are like, oh, man, he's so great. Why? Because he has Southern charm. He looks like a more serious person. He looks like he has skin in the game. And Tristan Murray, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. And that's it. That's like... That's the only difference, is the charitability afforded to someone like Matthew McConaughey, even if he's saying the exact same shit.
We also met a cosmetologist. All right, she was well-versed in mortuary makeup. That's the task of making the victims appear as peaceful and natural as possible.
Okay, this part might be a little bit better. Maybe I saw the only parts, okay? If he's going to humanize the victims further and okay, that's, you know, that does a little
in casket viewings. These bodies were very different. They needed much more than makeup to be presentable. They needed extensive restoration. Why? Due to the exceptionally large exit wounds of an AR-15 rifle. Most of the body so mutilated that only DNA test or green Converse could identify them. Many children were left not only dead but hollow. So yes, counselors are going to be needed in Uvalde for a long time. Counselors are needed in all these places where these mass shooters have been for a long time. I was told by many that it takes a good year before people even understand what to do next. And even then, when they become secure enough to take the first step forward, a lifetime's met Anna and Danilo, the mom and the stepdad of 9-year-old Maite Rodriguez. And Maite wanted to be...
Bro, does the White House not have a microphone? Like, are they unaware? Are they unaware of the existence of microphones? What is happening right now? Like, why is the sound coming from, like, inside of a tin can? Yeah, the White House took that portion of the budget and gave it to the police, brother. They need it. They need to give it to the Capitol Hill PD, brother. What the fuck?
A marine biologist. She was already in contact with Corpus Christi University of A&M for her future college enrollment. 9 years old. Maite cared for the environment so strongly that when the city asked her mother if they could release some balloons into the sky.
Be very clear, that means they were shot in the face and were unrecognizable. If they'd been shot anywhere else, the parents would have been able to identify them by face. It's obvious to some, but I wanted to point it out. Their faces were unrecognizable. They didn't have faces anymore. Yes, dude. Yeah. That's what he's saying. Jesus Christ. Yeah. This is what, I mean, that's what the 5.56 does. That's what an AR-15 does to you if you get shot in the face.
In her memory, her mom said, oh no, Maite wouldn't want to litter. Maite wore green high-top Converse with a heart she had hand-drawn on the right toe because they represented her love of nature. Camilla's got these shoes. Can you show these shoes, please? Wore these every day. Green Converse with a heart on the right toe. These are the same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her after the shooting. How about that? Maite wrote a letter.
Jesus Christ.
Her mom said if Maite's letter could help.
Okay, this part is actually a lot. I mean, like I said, this part is significantly better than the other. It's still like odd because it's, you know, it's Matthew McConaughey. But you know, it might have some moving power, or maybe people will look at this and go, you're a celebrity, you went Hollywood on us. I don't know. I don't think that, like, I just don't have a lot of faith in America. You know what I mean? And in American society. It's from Uvalde. No, I get it, dude. I understand, but it still doesn't matter. Dude, like, part of this needs to be tackled at the ground level too. Part of this needs to be tackled at the ground level as well. Because, like, whether we like to admit it or not, it doesn't matter that a tragedy happened in his hometown. No, not from where I'm coming from, dickhead. I'm talking about it doesn't matter in the eyes of, like, people who will say that's a libtard. Matthew McConaughey went libtard on us. And he's going Hollywood on us. That's what I'm talking about. They're going to say it's disingenuous. Because the goal of Matthew McConaughey speaking like this is to not, like, get the Democrats to agree with him. The Democrats already agree with him. They're on the right side of this issue. Democrats already agree with him. He's trying to convince Republicans on the ground, like actual Republican voters, to be like, all right, we do need to make change. Okay? That's why he's there. What do you think is going on here? No, Democratic voters, chat. Democratic voters, Democratic voters, Democratic voters, Democratic voters. I'm not talking about the politicians. Politicians are nothing. And I was right,
really
yeah.
Interesting to hear him say there, someone from Hollywood, calling to restore our family values in the wake of that mass shooting.
I mean, this is. Do you not understand? They're literally saying, like, Matthew McConaughey was positively calling for a restoration of family values. They're saying that's a good thing.
Elementary school in Texas.
Really?
They're not saying this is a bad thing. They're saying it's a good thing.
Say there, someone from Hollywood, calling to restore our family values. And
yeah, they're only picking up the restoring our family values bit.
Help someone accomplish her dream, but then her death would have an impact, and it would mean her dying had a point and wasn't pointless, that it would make the loss of her life matter. The letter reads, Marine biologist, I want to pass school to get to my dream college. My dream college is in Corpus Christi by the ocean. I need to live next to the ocean because I want to be a marine biologist. Marine biologists study animals and the water. Most of the time I will be in a lab. Sometimes I will be on TV.
Gun laws, like gun regulation, is such a complicated, it's not a complicated solution. It's a very easy solution, but the political motivation beyond it is way more multifaceted than just like, we don't live in a democracy, although that certainly factors into it. And that's the reason why we can't have any gun control. Americans are so easily propagandized. Like, American voters specifically are so easily propagandized that, like, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, like, what Matthew McConaughey is doing is great. And going on Fox News, apparently he's going on Brett Byers' show. That's wonderful. Talking about family values, sure. Talk about family values too. But if that's the only message that the Republicans get out of that, that's not going to be great. You know? Family values should only be mentioned as a you know, softening lube before you put the dick in, and the dick being gun control. This is good propaganda, though. Matthew McConaughey is a good vector for this kind of information, this kind of anger, this kind of resentment, ultimately. He needs to, he is a good figure for this. He's a good figurehead for this. This is an isolated incident, and truly no one gives a f. You could lay out these children on the sidewalk and Dems wouldn't get it done. Republicans would talk about prayers. No one gives a fuck. I don't know why people keep saying that's his hometown, man. Shut the f up. I know. It literally says Uvalde native Matthew McConaughey in the Chiron. Why do you think I don't know how to read? Do you think you are such a special little person who only you have been able to pick up on this truth, dude? I know. You're not actually bringing something new to the table, dog. I know.
Ava, Amory, and Lexi. Start by giving all of them our promise that their dreams are not going to be forgotten. We start by making the loss of these lives matter.
I respect Matthew McConaughey for using all the political and social capital he has and the positioning that he has as like a brand for good. As much as he's like kind of cringe, and as much as he's like talking about like centrism in many ways, ultimately, you know, it could be for good, especially if he talks about the necessity for gun control. The necessity for gun control should be the main reason why he's having these conversations to begin with. Like, there's no necessity for family values control. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it when he talks about family values or whatever or some intangible, unrelated dumb. If he's using that as an opportunity to, like I said, open up the conversation for the actual, real ways to deal with it. It's not just gun lobbyists, though. Just how much do gun lobbies pay these politicians? How does it remove their sense of responsibility and guilt so callously? It's not just the gun control, or it's not just gun lobbyists, okay? The NRA's most successful purpose is not necessarily to line up the pockets of politicians. It's that their most successful way is to mobilize people on their toys. Guns are toys. They're murder toys. People love their toys. People love their commodities. They have been able to successfully create a culture of like gun ownership being everything, like the most important thing in many instances. The gun is more important than the human itself for so many Americans. It is what they mobilize on. It's what they believe. The NRA could like turn around and tell you like, hey, and the politicians, of course, you know, consistently reinforce those brain broken attitudes. The NRA works at the behest of the gun manufacturers, and the gun manufacturers and the NRA simultaneously have been able to create a gun culture in America that dictates, especially because commodity fetishism is all we have, and our commodity purchases are our, cultural signifiers. We get a sense of shared perspective, a sense of community from things that we purchase, things that we consume, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or guns, no different, right? And gun solidarity is really, really, really important for like 50% of the country. Probably more important than like your political allegiances. Straight up. So the NRA itself is one institution that needs to be destroyed, certainly, in order for progress to happen. But another thing that needs to happen is like to explain to people that, like, look, you can be a gun owner and you can want to and suck a gun. You can want to shove an AR-15 in your asshole, okay? If that's what you want to do, you sick, twisted, perverted freaks. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Okay, but you need to get licenses. You need to get a license for it. You need to advocate for licenses for it, okay? That's it. I love guns. I love shooting guns. I'm not at the level where I, like, have tailored my entire personality around, shooting guns like many of these weirdos have, right? I'm not a gun pervert. I don't want to suck and... But I do enjoy shooting guns, and I think guns are fun, and they're cool, okay? But they're still very serious. They're a murder machine. And I think that it is an understandable, desirable step towards safety to advocate for some level of gun control. Then go to a gun range? What do you mean? I have many times. I've gone to the gun range with this stream. I've shot guns on stream multiple times. I've shot guns off stream. I've shot guns on stream. I love guns. But I still think the level of safety and consideration for what is a tool for murder is not where we're at right now with our current level of protection and safety and security. Yeah. That's perhaps the most disgusting part of this problem. Like, the broader analysis is that we have nothing to stand for. We have no political allegiances that are meaningful. We have no solidarity. We are alienated both from our labor, but also alienated in the social sense from one another. And our only sense of community comes from our commodity purchases. And that can become a mobilizer. And Republicans use that as a political mobilizer. And guns have become so much more than just a commodity that has defined your personality. Now they make it like a political movement. Now they turn it into a way of existence, a way of life. And if you want to do that, that's fine. It's weird, okay? And that kind of cultural shift is not going to happen in the absence of material conditions changing, okay? Going against that is not going to happen. That is simply a distraction that is helpful to reassert, reinstitute the capitalist hegemonic attitudes, okay? Focused on being a gun guy and a gun pervert. You're not focused enough on unionizing your workplace. You're not focused on, like, forcing your politicians to do your bidding. It's a really good distraction and an identity point for so many conservatives. Guns are more popular than the Republican Party is, okay? And the Republican Party recognizes that, so they use it and abuse it. The NRA recognizes that, so they use it and abuse it. And they motivate people. They put the fear of God into people, and they say, listen, it's not just about inconveniencing. They're going to take your guns away, and you're going to be in fear for the rest of your life. Black people are going to come into your neighborhood and, like, kill you, okay? Immigrants are going to come into your neighborhood and, like, your daughters if you don't have a gun. But then these people get riled up. So what you have to do is, in the absence of like changing that cultural attitude, which is not going to happen, right? Because it's way too successful as a means of distraction. You have to get gun owners to be like, listen, bro, I mean, this is crazy. You know, we should have licenses. I mean, that's wild. You have a license for a car, you should be able to have a license for a gun. Yeah, it'll be a little inconveniencing, but ultimately you will personally avoid additional child murders from happening. Because as it stands currently, Republicans care more about their own personal inconvenience than they do about avoiding additional children being murdered at schools. That's just the reality. Okay? That's just the truth. It's just the truth. They literally, the moment that you stand in front of reasonable gun safety measures, we're not talking about like wholesale ban. We're not talking about like the government coming in, breaking your door down and like stealing your guns from you or anything like that. We're talking about license, registration, and a demonstration of safety, okay? For a tool that is for murder. You can keep your guns. You can suck and your guns. As long as you showcase that you know how to properly handle them, you have proper safety measures in place, and you can undergo a mental evaluation and psych check. And this will not solve all of the violence. Clearly, there are still tools to do violent things with. However, this will make it a lot harder to do violence, and that is the appropriate thing to do. That is at the basis of every negative freedom. That's at the basis of every rule and regulation, is adding additional layers to make it as hard as possible for random people to be able to do violent things. And when I mention stuff like this, I don't know. It just like blows my mind that people still are like, nope, not happening. It's very discouraging. It's kind of crazy that like people are not even down for a reasonable level of gun safety and a reasonable level of regulation, restriction.
Sir, thank you. Thank you. When you spoke to the president, can you finish about this?
Are the changes that are being discussed enough for you, Mr. McConaughey?
Someone said, "Are you grandstanding?"